Intel, I mean, they need 3,000 technicians when that place starts up. The technology growth is just ridiculous right now in Central Ohio, the Columbus area.
Your question is a
Yeah.
$28 billion question, to be honest, because nobody has an answer for that right now. Is everybody's been preaching that there's jobs, there's money, and people aren't flooding into the programs yet. We don't really know why. I have my suspicions that there's these words like maintenance, like you said, that they just have a preconceived notion. Or you talk about manufacturing, and we've heard they hear dirty, dingy, dead end, right? So I think a lot of it is just getting out and dispelling those misconceptions and showing what this really is.
Or it's too hard.
Or it's too hard. Yes. Or I don't want to spend the time here, but I mean, everybody's willing to. Effectively, you can get a certificate. There's so many resources out there. It would be hard for you to have to pay for a certificate, right? And yet, we're still having a hard time. We're starting to see an uptick, I think. But it really is. That's the $28 billion question.
But this is a national phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know trying to recruit kids into the Career Center from high school in electronics, it's the geek factor. Mm-hmm. It's a stigma of being a geek. It's not cool.
Yeah.
We got to figure a way to let these high school kids know, it is chic to be geek. I mean, the geek shall inherit the earth. So.
There are multiple groups of people. I'm in a really unique position, and I work with a lot of different people in a lot of different backgrounds in a lot of different areas. And the common factor is kids don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
And so many times, I mean, Athens County, I'm an Athens County kid, I'm from the area. We have nothing like this in our backyard.
Exactly.
So these kids have never seen it. Mom, dad, grandma, aunt, uncle, neighbor, nobody around them has ever worked in these fields. So they have no exposure to it, other than maybe what they've seen on TV. And what they've seen on TV, typically, is dingy, dirty. I don't want to go do that. I don't want to work in those fields. But they've never seen what it is now. That's where the idea of the more and more exposure that we can start bringing in of these things to our 5th, 6th, and 7th grade kids, where it's the, oh, hey, by the way, that's what this is. It's the, we've got to get them excited about it and realize that these things are fun when they're little, when they're younger, so then it's not as big, bad, and scary when they get older. And I hear that across the board from so many people, from so many different groups. It's the, how do we get that out there right now? Because what we've got out there right now is not working.
Which is the purpose of this workshop, and now you're all ambassadors to explain this to other people, and then hopefully we get the ball rolling a little bit. But you're absolutely right. We don't do this in Appalachia, Ohio. So how would they know what the career pathway looks like? How would they know what it's like to operate a universal robot or a HVAC system like this?
And the other side of it too is there is this huge stigma in Appalachian regions where these kids think that they're not qualified. We're never going to be qualified. I don't have it in me to go do those things. We don't have the money. My parents can't send me to college. I don't know how I would ever do that. That's so far outside of my world. Making that shift where these kids can start to understand it's not irrelevant. You can do these things. There are ways to make these things happen. There are ways to make these things possible. It's getting that out and into them now that we've got to figure out what to do.
I'd like to add to that the training, especially remote training, and also some of the innate skills most teenagers and youngsters have today with electronics, with AR, VR tools that are becoming more accessible. They need to also be aware that that disadvantage they feel is ever easier to bridge at this point. Whether they have or not, it's a psychological issue maybe, but even if they have a disadvantage, it is not unsurmountable anymore. We need to also get that message across, I think.
Absolutely, and that's where there are a lot of these programs that are out there right now that I'm seeing, and I know there are multiple two-year institutions that are going and getting VR headsets, and they're bringing these things into middle schools and letting these kids see different career fields and different things that they've never been exposed to before. How can we do it? We don't live in an area that we can take a 20-minute bus trip to go expose these kids to these kind of things. That's not feasible. So you bring it to them. You find ways to bring it to them. We have had people, and I know that you guys have done this in multiple occasions at Zane State. We do it at Hocking. I've seen it happen in all these places where we can bring people in on a screen in their classroom. They're talking to a live person, walking them through their facility, seeing where it is that they work, seeing what it looks like, and what a day-to-day life is in their job. That makes it real. Without that, these kids have no clue what you're talking about.
Outreach and things like that you're doing with the schools and bringing these in. How often do you also invite the parents into the room or have a separate session for them? Because I've been also hearing, right, that's if you can convince mom and dad or convince grandma and grandpa.
Big.
Literally, one of my plans is you will be seeing this on Friday nights at the football game.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
It's going to be there passing out pamphlets or something Friday night because I honestly think that is the key.
Yeah.
Student, yeah, they don't know, but it's mom and dad that's wondering, how much is this going to cost? And somebody, did you touch on that? It's all there's a lot of funding out there right now for technical education. Like I said, right now the one I mentioned for the females, that's $5,000 a year. That should cover everything at a 2-year college and that's $5,000 a year. So it basically you got free and I don't think there's any like limit on it. It's just if you go to a technical college and a technical program, they will give you $5,000.
You guys have some ASCENT money for scholarships.
Yeah, well, that's the difference.
And so, yeah, so, I mean, it's all about reducing the cost. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's also making people aware that those things exist because again, they don't know what they don't know. And the fact that there's a $5,000 scholarship sitting out there is wonderful.
Yeah.
But if we can't push that information out, if that information is not getting circulated to the students that could be potentially sitting in your classrooms, then it's still just sitting.
Yeah. And Matt, you guys have some money too. So Jeremy's got some scholarship dollars for you guys as well.
I'll get him up.